The world you see is not the world as it is. It's the world your mind has built for you. This isn't metaphor or mysticism. It's the fundamental architecture of human experience. What if I told you that the limitations you face, the opportunities you see, and even the emotions you feel aren't objective realities, but constructions of your own making? The walls that contain your life weren't built by circumstance. They were architected by your beliefs. Consider this. Two people face identical setbacks. One collapses under perceived failure, spiraling into despair. The other sees valuable feedback, adjusts course, and eventually thrives. Same external event, radically different realities. What separates them isn't luck or inherent ability. It's the blueprint their mind uses to construct their experience. We walk through life believing we're responding to an objective world, when in truth, we're responding to our interpretation of it, a simulation our mind has constructed based on beliefs so deeply embedded, we mistake them for reality itself. These belief structures weren't consciously chosen. They were inherited, absorbed, and unconsciously reinforced throughout your life. But what if you could access the architectural plans? What if you could identify the load-bearing beliefs that shape your perception and redesign them? The implications are staggering. Anxiety, limitation, and suffering aren't inevitable conditions of existence, but symptoms of outdated mental blueprints. I promise you this: by the end of our exploration, you'll understand not only how your mind has been silently constructing the boundaries of your world, but more importantly, how to consciously rebuild it. The question isn't whether your beliefs shape your reality. The evidence is overwhelming that they do. The real question, which we'll address, is this: who will be the architect of the reality you inhabit? Your conscious intentions or your unconscious programming? To fully grasp how profoundly our beliefs architect our reality, we must turn to Immanuel Kant, the 18th century philosopher whose work fundamentally transformed our understanding of perception and reality. Kant proposed something revolutionary in his critique of pure reason, that the human mind doesn't passively receive information about an objective world. Instead, it actively constructs experience through innate cognitive structures he called categories of understanding. This wasn't merely academic philosophy, it was an intellectual earthquake that permanently fractured the foundation of how we understand reality. Kant distinguished between the noumenal world, things as they actually are, and the phenomenal world, things as we experience them. The profound implication: we never experience reality directly, only our mind's construction of it. Consider what this means. Space, time, causality. These aren't features of an objective reality, but the mental scaffolding your mind uses to organize raw sensory data into coherent experience. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world your mind allows you to see. But Kant's insights were just the beginning. In the early 20th century, constructivist philosophers like Ernst von Glasersfeld took these ideas further, proposing that knowledge doesn't represent an objective external reality, but is instead an ordering and organization of a world constituted by our experience. Knowledge, in this view, isn't something we discover, it's something we construct. The implications of this philosophical lineage remain largely unrecognized in everyday life. Most people still operate under the naive assumption that their perceptions reflect reality as it objectively exists. Yet this assumption collapses under scrutiny. Take color perception. What you perceive as red is not an inherent property of objects, but your visual system's construction based on wavelength absorption. The color exists in your experience, not in the object itself. This philosophical framework raises profound questions we'll explore. If we construct our experiential reality through belief structures, what happens when we consciously reshape those structures? If two people with different belief systems literally experience different realities when facing identical circumstances, which version of reality holds more authority. Most importantly, if your mind is the architect of your experience, what responsibility do you bear for the reality you've constructed? These aren't abstract philosophical questions. They have immediate, practical implications for how you navigate suffering, pursue fulfillment, and understand your place in the world. But understanding the philosophical foundations is only the first step. Next, we must examine how these belief structures form and how they can be redesigned. Our beliefs don't merely filter reality, they create it. This creation process occurs through three interconnected mechanisms that form a self-reinforcing cycle: selective attention, interpretation, and memory. Let's examine each to understand how your belief structures silently architect your experience. First, selective attention. Your mind processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second, yet your conscious attention can handle only about 50 bits. This means your attention must filter out 99.9995% of available information. What determines which minuscule fraction reaches your awareness? Your beliefs. If you believe the world is dangerous, your attention system becomes exquisitely tuned to potential threats, filtering out evidence of safety and kindness. If you believe opportunities are scarce, your perception system spotlights competition and limitation while filtering out abundance and possibility. Consider this experiment. Ask two people with opposing political views to watch the same political debate. Despite viewing identical stimuli, they'll perceive entirely different events. One sees their candidate offering compelling arguments while the opponent stumbles. The other perceives the exact opposite. Neither is lying. They're experiencing different realities constructed by their attentional systems based on pre-existing beliefs. But selective attention is just the foundation. The second mechanism, interpretation, builds upon this foundation by assigning meaning to what we perceive. Imagine two people receive identical performance feedback at work. The person with a belief in personal growth interprets criticism as valuable information for improvement. The person with a belief in fixed ability interprets identical feedback as evidence of inadequacy and failure. Same external event, radically different experiential realities. This interpretation process isn't conscious or deliberate. It happens automatically, below the threshold of awareness. Your mind doesn't announce, "I'm now interpreting this event according to your belief that rejection means unworthiness." It simply presents the interpretation as reality itself. This person rejected you because you're fundamentally unworthy. The belief becomes invisible, while its effects on your experience remain devastatingly real. The third mechanism, selective memory, consolidates these constructed realities over time. Your memory isn't a faithful recording of experience, but an active reconstruction influenced by your beliefs. Studies consistently show that we preferentially remember information that confirms our existing beliefs while forgetting contradictory evidence. This creates a powerful, self-reinforcing cycle. Your beliefs shape what you notice, how you interpret it, and what you remember, which in turn strengthens those very beliefs. But here's where we reach the revolutionary insight promised earlier. This cycle, while normally unconscious, can be consciously interrupted and redirected. The first step is metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking processes. By developing this awareness, you can begin to distinguish between events themselves and your interpretations of those events. Let me illustrate with a powerful example. Two entrepreneurs face identical business failures. The first, operating from a belief that failure reflects personal inadequacy, experiences crushing shame, withdrawal, and abandonment of entrepreneurial pursuits. The second, working from a belief that failure provides essential feedback, experiences disappointment followed by curiosity, analysis, and renewed effort with adjusted strategies. same external circumstance, profoundly different experiential realities. The critical difference isn't in their external circumstances, but in their belief structures, the architectural plans their minds use to construct reality from raw sensory data. And these plans can be redesigned through deliberate practice. This redesign process begins with identifying core beliefs that function as load-bearing walls in your mental architecture. These typically form early in life and often include beliefs about your worthiness, capability, how others view you, and what's possible in your life. Once identified, these beliefs can be evaluated not for their truth, which merely reinforces their seeming solidity, but for their utility. The question becomes not, is this belief true, but is this belief constructing a reality I want to inhabit? If the answer is no, you can begin the reconstruction process by designing a belief that would architect a more desirable reality. This isn't positive thinking or affirmation. It's a fundamental redesign of your reality construction system at the architectural level. But installing new belief structures requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands consistent exposure to evidence supporting the new belief, repeated action as if the new belief were true, and often the support of others who already inhabit the reality you wish to construct. But a profound question remains unanswered. If we construct our realities through belief, does this mean there's no objective truth? Are we advocating for a reality where anything goes? This critical question will lead us toward understanding the ethical dimensions of conscious reality construction. Let me speak directly to you now, because what we're discussing isn't abstract philosophy. It's the invisible architecture determining the boundaries of your life right now. The reality you'll experience today, tomorrow, and throughout your future is being actively constructed by belief structures you likely didn't consciously choose and may not even be aware of. Think about the areas of your life where you feel stuck, limited, or suffering. Perhaps it's a relationship pattern that repeatedly leads to heartbreak, a career ceiling you can't seem to break through, or an emotional state like anxiety or inadequacy that colors your days. These aren't objective conditions of your life. They're experiences your belief structures are architecting. I want you to consider something uncomfortable, but potentially liberating. To what extent have you been complicit in constructing the very limitations you struggle against? This isn't about blame, but about recognizing your creative power. If you believe deeply that you're not deserving of love, your attention system will spotlight evidence confirming this belief while filtering out contradictory information. Your interpretation system will assign meanings to neutral events that reinforce your unworthiness. Your memory will selectively strengthen this narrative over time. The result? A lived experience where you genuinely perceive yourself as unlovable, with seemingly abundant evidence supporting this perception. The belief has constructed a reality that feels objectively true. This recognition can initially feel disheartening. If your mind has been constructing limitations, does this mean your suffering is your fault? Absolutely not. These architectural plans weren't consciously chosen. They were installed through early experiences, cultural messaging, and significant emotional events, often during childhood when you had no capacity to evaluate or reject them. But while you weren't responsible for the initial installation of these beliefs, as an adult, you now face a profound choice. Will you continue allowing unconscious blueprints to architect your reality, or will you assume the role of conscious creator? This isn't a one-time decision, but a continuous practice of awareness and choice. I'll be honest, this work isn't easy. Redesigning core beliefs feels threatening to your system because these beliefs, regardless of the suffering they cause, provide a sense of predictability and coherence. Your mind would rather maintain a painful but familiar reality than venture into uncertain territory, even if it might lead to greater fulfillment. This is why intellectual understanding alone rarely transforms experience. You've likely encountered personal development concepts before without experiencing lasting change. That's because transformation requires more than understanding. It requires systematically installing new architectural plans through consistent exposure to new evidence, embodied practice, and often community support. What I'm offering isn't a quick fix or 5 easy steps to happiness. I'm inviting you into a fundamental reconception of how your experience is created and what's possible when you assume conscious authorship of your reality construction process. This path requires courage, persistence, and willingness to experience the discomfort that comes with expanding beyond familiar limitations. But consider the alternative, continuing to live within restrictions that exist only because your mind continues to construct them. Every moment you spend operating from unconscious beliefs is a moment spent creating a reality you haven't consciously chosen. The path forward isn't about reaching some future state of perfection. It's about developing the capacity to observe your mind's construction process in real time and make conscious choices about which beliefs you'll allow to architect your experience in this moment and the next and the next. The question now becomes practical. How exactly do you begin redesigning your mental architecture? What specific practices enable conscious reality construction? These critical questions lead us to the transformative practices we'll explore next. The power to reshape your experiential reality lies in 5 transformative practices that allow you to redesign your mental architecture. First, cultivate metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your thinking process rather than being subsumed by it. Begin by regularly asking, what belief is constructing my current experience? This simple question creates separation between you and your belief structures, revealing them as creations rather than immutable truths. Second, identify the load-bearing beliefs in your mental architecture. These typically form around worthiness, capability, safety, and possibility. Examine limiting experiences in your life and trace them to their architectural origins by asking, what would I have to believe for this experience to make sense? The answers reveal the blueprints your mind is using. Third, evaluate beliefs based on utility rather than truth. Instead of asking whether a belief is true, which only reinforces its apparent solidity, ask whether it's useful. Does this belief construct a reality you want to inhabit? If not, it's a candidate for redesign regardless of how true it seems. Fourth, consciously design replacement beliefs. This isn't positive thinking, but architectural redesign. A replacement belief should be both personally compelling and expansive enough to construct a more desirable reality. Phrase it in the present tense, as if it's already operating. I am someone who... Finally, install these new architectural plans through consistent practice. This requires strategically directing your attention toward evidence supporting the new belief, interpreting events through this new framework, and regularly visualizing yourself embodying this new reality. Crucially, it also means taking actions aligned with the new belief even before it feels natural. The transformation isn't immediate. You're redesigning deep architectural structures that have been reinforcing themselves for decades. But with consistent practice, you'll experience moments where your reality noticeably shifts. Something that would have triggered anxiety now elicits curiosity. An opportunity you would have dismissed now appears accessible. A rejection that would have confirmed your unworthiness now registers as valuable feedback. These moments accumulate over time, gradually constructing a new experiential reality that reflects your conscious intentions rather than unconscious programming. This isn't about denying external circumstances, but about fundamentally transforming how those circumstances are constructed into your lived experience. You now understand that you are indeed the architect of your reality, not through magical thinking, but through the concrete mechanisms of attention, interpretation, and memory. The question is no longer whether your beliefs shape your reality, but whether you'll consciously participate in that shaping process. If you've truly understood the profound implications of conscious reality construction, comment below with "I am the architect" to affirm your commitment to this transformative path. As we conclude this exploration, remember that understanding these principles intellectually is just the beginning. The true power emerges through consistent application, the daily practice of observing how your beliefs are constructing your experience and making conscious choices about which architectural plans you'll implement. This journey of conscious reality construction isn't one you complete, but one you commit to. Each day presents countless opportunities to observe your mind's construction process and intervene with awareness and intention. Each challenge becomes an invitation to examine the beliefs architecting that experience and potentially redesign them. The world desperately needs individuals who understand these principles, people who recognize that the conflicts, limitations, and suffering we see around us aren't inevitable features of objective reality, but constructions emerging from collective belief systems that can be redesigned. By undertaking this work in your own life, you contribute to a broader transformation in how we collectively construct our shared reality. This is just the beginning of what's possible when you fully embrace your role as the architect of your experience. In future explorations, we'll delve deeper into specific applications of these principles, how to redesign beliefs around money and abundance, relationships and connection, purpose and meaning, and much more. If you're committed to developing mastery in conscious reality construction, subscribe now to join a community of fellow architects dedicated to this transformative work. Each week, we'll explore new dimensions of how beliefs shape experience and provide specific practices to help you redesign your mental architecture with greater precision and effectiveness. The reality you experience tomorrow is being constructed by the beliefs you hold today. Subscribe now to ensure you're creating that reality by conscious design rather than unconscious default.